Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President.
Thank you, Senator McGrath. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. It's a privilege to follow my colleague Senator McGrath on that concept of FIS, which he's told me about before, and I do hope, as he does, that it's something that can be taken up by all political parties. Senator McGrath also mentioned that it's been 3 months since his first speech, as it has been for me, and I can honestly say I see every day I get to spend in this place as an absolute privilege and an honour, in my own small way I hope I've contributed to some debates in that time, issues like rural debt, like a new cattle live export facility at Rockhampton, another issue I'm trying to progress, and the various committee inquiries that I'm fortunate enough to be on as well, including NDIS, Northern Australia and Great Barrier Reef. I see with all of that work there that there's enough to keep me busy in the chamber. I don't really need to go looking for other people's problems. But I do find it regrettable tonight that we've established an inquiry which is principally about trying to solve other people's problems, not trying to solve and do the job that we've been put here to do. So I think it's regrettable that the Palmer Party's new senators, just like James and I, new senators here, have chosen to use their time, in effect, to waste their time on an inquiry that is not going to deliver any tangible results to the Australian people, but is going to waste a lot of time on a political witch hunt which has got nothing to do with trying to pass laws in this place which is going to make people's lives better. Let's be clear exactly what this is about. This inquiry that has been established is all about trying for the Palmer Party to get some revenge on a Queensland government that they don't like. And if they did not like that Queensland government, they had a very simple solution available to them under our democracy. That is to run for the Queensland Parliament. If they didn't like the Queensland government, they could have run for the Queensland Parliament. They didn't do that. They ran for the federal parliament last September, about a year ago, and they were elected to the federal parliament. And since they have been elected to the federal parliament, they should be focused on federal issues, which they are clearly not doing. And I find that greatly regrettable because we all have limited time in this place. It is a great honour to be here, but we have a limited number of days. There is limited time that we can all contribute, all 76 of us have to share that time. And for that time to be wasted on this kind of a political witch hunt, I think is an absolute waste. Now, the other big project that we know that the member for Fairfax, Clive Palmer, is engaging at the moment, is to build a new Titanic. Clive Palmer wants to build Titanic 2. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to build that. I think it's a pretty enormous objective to try and replicate that 100 years on. But at the very least, I think we might have succeeded here tonight, because I think this inquiry that we've established is going to follow the course a little bit like the original Titanic. It's a big project. There's a massive terms of reference here. It's overloaded, and it's going to head out on the stormy waters and see how it goes, see if it can get to some kind of destination. I don't think it's going to get there. I think it's going to finish just like the first Titanic. It's going to be wrecked on the shores of great ambition, and ultimately will get nowhere. And there'll be a lot of people who get hurt in the process, and principally among those are the Labor Party and the Greens have decided to support this venture. Now, it is consistent with how the Labor Party and the Greens have approached matters in the last few years, that they are now will get into bed with any other political party that they view that will give them an opportunity to progress their political cause. They have no principles on the other side of this place. They are willing to get into bed with the Palmer Party to create a new Titanic. If you like, Stephen Conroy, Senator Conroy, who moved this motion for the Labor Party to support this motion, is playing the role of Leonardo DiCaprio in this new movie, and Senator Millen from the Greens Party is Kate Winslet. They are joining together. They are getting into bed once again, to head out on this new journey on the Titanic. And it's apt that Leonardo DiCaprio is in that role. They're playing that role as a converted Greenie that he is. And not only that, it's being financed and produced by none other than the member for Fairfax. He's the James Cameron in this saga as well, and he's hoping that the box office proceeds are going to be just as good as the first Titanic. Now, I think he might be right there. I agree with Senator O'Sullivan, who contributed to this debate earlier on this issue. I think it is going to be a bit of a show, this new inquiry. I think the people of Queensland, the people of Australia, get your popcorn ready, because this is going to be a bit of fun. It is going to, in my view, I went to Titanic, I think, twice. I think I went there with a young lady once that didn't turn out much. It certainly wasn't my wife at the time. I had to suffer through that 3 hours or whatever it was. You might remember, Mr. President, it was, in my view, quite a long-winded movie, but I was willing to suffer it that night. I don't think this inquiry will be as bad as that. I think it's going to be a little bit more exciting, because I think the topic matter that we've got to work with here on this inquiry is quite thrilling and quite exhilarating, because, as Senator O'Sullivan pointed out before, the way this terms of reference has been worded very clearly allows this newly established inquiry to look into the matters of the former Queensland Labor government, the Bligh government. Because when you look at the inquiry, Section 1, subsection A, does limit that section, Section A, to matters to Commonwealth funds allocated to the state of Queensland since the 26th of March 2012, but then subclauses B, C, D, E, F, the new one 2, based on coal seam gas, that has been inserted, are not limited by that time frame at all. So they can go look back at all the previous decisions of Queensland governments, including Labor governments, including Wayne Goss. I was a bit young then, Senator McGrath, but I'm sure we can have fun with that too. I remember there was who was the cabinet secretary at the time for Wayne Goss? I think there was someone there that has come to prominence in Labor politics. There was a decision made. Yeah, you help me out, Senator Back. There was a decision made, I remember, to not proceed with a dam. I remember there at Waterford West.
Senator Canavan, don't want to interrupt your flow, but if you could desist on tapping the desk.
Oh, sorry.
It echoes throughout all the sound system.
That's a very worthwhile and useful advice, Mr. President. I'll take that on board. But it has come to me. It was the former Prime Minister, Mr. Kevin Rudd. He was the Cabinet Secretary for Wayne Goss, and I remember that I grew up around that area, that there was a proposal for a dam at Waterford West called the Wolfdean Dam, which was completely kiboshed by that government. They built houses on the dam site, and we can no longer build that dam. And if we had built that dam, the 2011 Brisbane floods might not have been as bad as they would have. So we could look at that. Indeed, we could look at the floods more generally, because there was a lot of. Remember they merged all those departments in the former Bligh government. And if anybody's read the Commission of Inquiry report into the 2011 floods, there was clearly a complete breakdown in communication between the Department of Environment, Department of Water, and the Premier's department at the time. It was a comedy of errors there, with, I think it was Mr. Stephen Robertson, the Water Minister at the time. They received advice ahead of the floods that there was a major La Nina event, and nothing was done. Nothing was done to help protect the people of Brisbane. That's another thing we can look into. As I mentioned last week, there's lots more we can look into. There is the former Health Department official who took off with $16 million of Queensland government funds, $16 million, and he explained to his senior officers at the Department of Health that he had this wealth because he was a Tahitian prince. That's how he got away with it. The Department of Health believed him that he was a Tahitian prince. It was subsequently came to a light that he was a fake Tahitian prince. He was a fake prince, and he ran off with $16 million of Queensland government taxpayers' money. Now, I note that under Section 11 of this inquiry, we are to visit a number of towns and centres in Queensland, including Nambour, Ipswich, Mackay, Rockhampton, etc., etc., etc. One area that's not on this that we should perhaps go to is Fiji. Let's go to Fiji. Tahiti. Sorry, not Fiji. Tahiti. Let's go to Tahiti and work out whether or not we can go and look. We can go investigate the royal family, the royal lineage of the Tahitian family, and see if there is any connection to Department of Health officials in Queensland, and whether maybe we should have been cutting the former Queensland Labor government a bit more slack. Perhaps it was a credible story if we went to Tahiti and looked at that. Of course, unfortunately, only one of our side of politics will get that opportunity to go to Tahiti, because as was outlined earlier in the debate, there are 5 members of this committee, and only 1 has been allocated to the coalition. Only a 5th, despite, of course, this side of the chamber almost being half of the chamber, and only a 5th of the positions are going there. Now, I'd also like to note that with the establishment of this committee, the chair of this committee will receive an 11% increase in their wage on their base salary, which works out to be about $20,000 a year. Now, this has been created by the Labor Party, created by the Greens, The committee will determine who the chair is, of course, but it may go to Senator Lazarus. And it's very, very kind of the Senate to provide Senator Lazarus with that increase in his salary. But for what purpose is it? And I go back to what I started. Why is the Australian taxpayer being asked to pay the chair of this committee an extra $21,000 a year? It will provide no benefit for the federal parliament. It will change nobody's lives in this country, and is a complete abuse of our power.
Thank you, Senator Canavan.